Right now, live here on the WHAS 1119. Well, I'm just going to call it for what it is. It is the night of no snow, no rain, but at one point we were in the zone for a lot of heavy wet snow. Now that's changed, and the big story tonight is the winter weather advisory for counties right to our south. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on the WHAS 1119. I'm Doug Proffitt. Meteorologist Colleen Peterson is here to update what we can expect in Kentuckiana overnight. Any concerns about the roads here? And Colleen, I'm looking at all this rain right now, and you say another strange twist of this winter. Nashville is going to get more snow than us.
Yet again, this isn't right, Doug. I feel like something's wrong. Nashville is getting more snow. In fact, getting a lot of reports of some wet, big snowflakes across Nashville. So even south of Bowling Green, if you have any travel plans early tomorrow morning, those are the only slick spots on the road. In fact, that low pressure a little bit too far to the south, so missing us yet again, which is why our temperatures are still in the 40s, really having a hard time to even transition to some snowflakes. So likely still seeing some rain around Campbellsville and Columbia. So really not going to see any chance of snow here in Louisville, Hodgenville. Really the only community that we're focusing on, Adair County. Right now that radar shows rain could have that opportunity to transition briefly to snow, but we're only expecting minor accumulation if that even happens. All of that will be gone by 2 a.m. So really we're missing out on this system, which is also a good thing because our roads are going to stay nice and dry. Tomorrow is a beautiful forecast. We're waking up to some crystal blue skies. It is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Right now, temperature is 45 here in Louisville, 40 in Bardstown, is still in the upper 30s in Lebanon and Campbellsville. So it's trying to transition to snow areas farther south, but we just might be not cold enough, as well as that low pressure to the south. 51 degrees tomorrow afternoon. We have a beautiful setup tomorrow. I'll also tell you what Valentine's Day looks like here coming up shortly. Doug?
All right, talk about missing it all. Thank you, Colleen. Now, right now, new at 11, JCPS once again is in the square of the focus of Kentucky lawmakers in Frankfort with one potential goal, breaking up JCPS into smaller districts. They are now moving to create an oversight task force of our school district. It is backed by Louisville Representatives Ken Fleming and Senator Lindsey Tishner from Smithville. WHAS 1119's Alex Dieterer is here breaking down the proposed piece of legislature and what it could mean for the big school district. Alex?
Doug, the resolution would be called the Efficient and Effective School Governance Task Force. This resolution would create a task force to review districts with more than 75,000 students. JCPS is the only Kentucky school district to check that box. The biggest takeaway from this resolution, though, is at the proposition that they could break JCPS into different school districts. JCPS is once again in the focus of Kentucky lawmakers who want to make changes.
Not a surprise that it was filed, maybe a surprise over the timing.
Sam Corbett, a former JCPS school board member, points out Republican lawmakers in Frankfort are doing exactly what they've said they'd do this legislative session. A resolution to create an oversight task force for JCPS was filed in both the House and the Senate.
I think people realize how important it is to have the most successful public school system that we can.
While JCPS is not explicitly named in the resolution, it applies to school districts with more than 75,000 students. JCPS with 96,000 is the only district in Kentucky that meets the qualification. The resolution proposes breaking up JCPS to create new school districts.
There's a lot of big challenges, a lot of big issues around JCPS. But in my opinion, breaking up the school system into 2 or 3 districts is not the answer.
Corbett says the idea of breaking up JCPS may seem simple on paper, but 2 main issues jump out to him: how to make it equitable for all 90,000 plus kids and how to divide up the money.
JCPS is funded primarily through property tax and occupational tax. And based upon the different values of properties around the county, one part of the county has higher price values than other parts of the county. So it's clearly going to be a challenge to make sure that the funding and the entire model is equitable.
In response to the resolution, a JCPS spokesperson shared this statement with WHAS 11. Quote, "We are fine with an objective, unbiased study of JCPS and how we might better serve students. We have been repeatedly studied, audited, and evaluated since Dr. Polio took office. However, this task force is obviously stacked in a way to come to a preordained conclusion, that is, to split up JCPS. Dr. Polio and anyone who truly understands education governance is excluded from the task force, and that says it all.
I would agree with that assessment. The question I have is, would an action like this, if in fact this went forward and there was serious discussion about breaking the district up, would Dr. Polio choose to do something different?
This task force would include one teacher from JCPS. The other members would be lawmakers, someone from the auditor's office, someone from the mayor's office, and appointed members who live here in Louisville. I'm Alex Dieterer, WHAS 1119 on your side.
Alex, thank you very much. In our request for a statement, JCPS pointed to 6 audits and reviews that they've undergone since 2017. That includes a 2017 Kentucky Department of Education audit, which identified 276 items that needed to be corrected. Those items were fixed by the year 2020. Right now, all new on the WHAS 1119, the Indiana Attorney General's office is weighing in on a bond appeal from the former Clark County, Indiana Sheriff Jamie Knoll. In a brief filed today, the Attorney General's office is asking the Indiana Court of Appeals to dismiss that appeal. Now, last month, Knoll's attorney appealed the $75,000 bond set after Knoll was arrested on 15 felony charges. The bond also required Knoll to turn over his passport and guns. The Attorney General's office argued that the motion is now a moot point because Knoll paid that bond and was released the very same day. They add if the court does not dismiss the appeal, it should be affirmed instead. Knoll's attorney, Larry Wilder of Southern Indiana, has previously declined to explain the point of the bond appeal to WHAS 11 News. From Bardstown in the Crystal Rogers case, the judge has granted suspect Joseph Lawson's request for a bond, but he didn't give him what he wanted. Lawson is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. In court last week, his attorneys asked for his bond to be lowered from $500,000, $500,000 down to $50,000. They argued because Lawson is a paraplegic in a wheelchair, he's not a danger or flight risk, but the prosecutor said he cannot be trusted out of jail. Now, the prosecutor said when Lawson found out he was under investigation in this case, he started contacting friends and family in hopes of creating an alibi. With that in mind, Judge Charles Sims ruled that the bond be lowered to $250,000 full cash, and that's what he ruled today. Joseph Lawson, his father Steve Lawson, and Brooks Houck are all expected to return to court on March 21st. Kentucky's Attorney General is suing Kroger for its alleged role in the opioid crisis. In the lawsuit filed in Bullitt Circuit Court, Russell Coleman claims between 2006 and 2019, Kroger was responsible for more than 11% of all opioid pills dispensed in Kentucky. Coleman argues Kroger failed to implement any effective monitoring program to stop suspicious opioid orders and did not report a single suspicious prescription in Kentucky for 7 years. We have contacted Kroger since early this afternoon on this, but we have not yet heard back. All new on the WHAS 1119, the leadership team is in place tonight for the first hospital to be built in West Louisville in 150 years. In fact, the woman who will run Norton West Louisville has also incorporated many of the community's suggestions to make this truly a hospital that reflects West Louisville's history. WHAS 1119's Taylor Woods and photojournalist Elijah McKenzie talked to some of the hospital leaders.
On the corner of 28th and Broadway, Norton's first West Louisville hospital is underway. Carenza Townsend will oversee the new hospital. A longtime Norton nurse, she rose up to the ranks to Chief Administrative Officer, becoming the first Black woman to run a Norton hospital.
We heard you. That's my message to the community. We heard you.
Features inside the hospital will include a community room, artwork that celebrates West Louisville, and a central check-in area so patients feel a sense of comfort when they walk through the doors.
It just so happens that it's a predominantly Black or minority neighborhood, and it just so happens to be that it's been 150 years. And so whether you look like me or anybody else, it's really about access.
Townsend says it was key for a diverse team to lead the hospital with men and women that reflect the community.
They didn't get this job because of how they look or how they fit into an aesthetic. And so we've got a real good group of people who they understand the assignment.
And this dynamic team is bridging the 9th Street divide through access to health care with a goal to make sure West Louisville's patients are given quality treatment.
Work just on, minimizing some of these disparities within our community. So very excited to get started with those folks.
Abra Sickles will serve as Director of Community Partnerships, partnering with organizations like Dare to Care to help end food insecurity.
I like to think that together, we're not just treating illnesses, but we're also being able to foster a healthier, more resilient community.
A fresh food pantry filled with resources will be available to patients.
And you can't spell West Louisville without we, and it's going to take us, a community.
And they're looking to expand those partnerships throughout the community. In Louisville, Taylor Woods, WHAS 11 Night Team on your side.
Construction well underway, as you saw in our video. The hospital plans to open to patients and the public this coming November. Well, from better parking to a new common area, tonight the public weighed in on improvements that they'd like to see at Stansbury Park. Tonight's meeting is part of the public input process for potential changes to this Olmsted Park. That park is located off South 3rd Street, right across from the U of L campus, and is used by both students and families living in the nearby neighborhoods. Conditions, though, have become so bad, groups like the Manual High School girls tennis team have now had to move elsewhere.
A year ago, they didn't have any nets at all, and then we contacted the county and they brought out nets, but typically they do not stay up well, and then there's also like cracks in the court as well, which provides a big safety issue for tripping and things like that. There's also like indents in the court, so if it rains, it's impossible to play as well because there's just puddles all over.
If you have ideas about the future of Stansbury Park, there's an online survey that you can fill out. We've got a link for you at WHAS11.com.